guys, it's John Moore here, and welcome to the Texas College Football Show. And this is week 4. We've already had the countdown out, but this is the preview of the game of the week. And this week, it's without a doubt, it's SMU at TCU. We're going to bring up all the specifics on that. We'll talk about where it is, when it is. Joining me, we got Travis Tyler, who's with Fanatics View. He's a writer, sports writer, and producer. Travis, tell me what else is it you do? You do some hockey stuff. What else are you doing?
Yeah, I do a lot of college sports stuff, a lot of Dallas Stars stuff. I'm one of the co-hosts on the Fanatics View Dallas Stars show, and do a lot of interviews and that stuff. And then I've done a lot of the Big 12 media days, Conference USA media days, and that kind of stuff. And then just write a bunch of stuff in addition to that. So
well, and I know you've covered both, but today you're here to talk about SMU. Because who we have from TCU is my buddy Jamie Plunkett here with 247 Sports is who you're doing it with now. What else are you doing, Jamie? You're doing some other stuff too. I know Dave Campbell, Texas Football, aren't you their correspondent?
Yeah, so I do all my writing over at Horned Frog Blitz, which is the 24/7 Sports TCU site. I have a podcast on the Dave Campbell's College Podcast Network as well called Frogs Insider. So covering TCU from a couple different angles there.
And you've done it for a while. I used to have a show with another outlet that Jamie used to be at, and he was the TCU guy, and I was doing Texas Ranger stuff there. Mm-hmm. So we knew each other back then. That was a magical year, though. That's the year TCU went all the way to the finals. And everyone knows I'm a Horn fan. I got a kid that goes to Texas too. But, man, I was a TCU fan that year. I was having a lot of fun for you guys. I was really enjoying it.
And we're seeing if we can't maybe get back to that a little bit this year.
I tell you what, it was a fun year. So let's talk about the game, guys, that we're going to be discussing this week. And that game is SMU, that is the Iron Skillet. They're at TCU. It's this Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Time. It's on ESPN too. The line is TCU is picked to win this by 6.5 points, and the over/under is 64.5. Let's start with you, Travis. You think that's about right? Are we sitting right there with this line?
I think it's going to be a little bit closer, but I don't mind it. I think it's probably going to be about I would say a 3 or 4 point game, but
still have TCU in the lead.
Yes, I do.
What about you, Jamie? Where are you sitting on this?
I think if both teams were fully healthy, I could see it being pretty much an even game. Maybe -3 for TCU just for home field advantage there. But with some of the injuries to SMU, especially on the defense, I think this line is appropriate, and I think the total is appropriate as well, based on how both secondaries have played.
So what do you think, over or under? What are you guys thinking?
I'm on the record over at Horned Frog Blitz, I think, as the over.
Is the over? What about you, Travis?
I'm definitely leaning over the way from what I've seen from these defenses so far.
Okay. All right, guys, so let's talk about what's happened previously. In last week's results, TCU is 2-1. 2-0. SMU is 2-1. Last week, SMU beat Missouri State University. My son goes to Missouri State University. I was watching that game. Only beat them 28-10. Travis, a little disappointing. Kind of thought that this was going to be a little bit of a bigger blowout. What did you think of that game?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a slow start for SMU. It had some turnovers and some penalty problems at the beginning of the game. I think they ended up with what Coach Lashley was saying was 12 penalties throughout that game, and that's going to definitely pull you back. It's definitely not going to help you against TCU this week. So it was just a matter of a slow start and kind of maybe a little bit of a hangover effect from the Baylor game, and they were able to get it out eventually.
So TCU is 2-0. Last week they beat Abilene Christian University 42-21 after a bye week. Jamie, what did you see in that game? I mean, 21 points. Was that some late points for Abilene Christian, kind of when everybody else was playing at the end?
Yes and no. They were up. The Frogs were up 42-9 at one point, so the score maybe isn't fully indicative of how TCU won this game, but Stone Earl, the quarterback for Abilene Christian, had a couple really nice passes there in the fourth quarter, threw his first 2 touchdowns of the year, actually, for ACU, and had a little bit of success throwing the football against TCU's starting corners as well. So that's something to keep an eye on, because those corners played so well against North Carolina. You're wondering if there's maybe they were overlooking ASU a little bit in favor of getting ready for the Iron Skillet. Maybe they weren't quite as prepared for that game, or what's going on there. But that'll be an interesting storyline to follow going into Saturday.
Well, if we're going to talk about both of these teams, we're always going to go into quarterback play and the quarterbacks for each team and where they're at. Kevin Jennings, of course, was my first team all Texas team that I had at the beginning of the year. I had Kevin Jennings on the first team. He's 62 for 88 right now. He's got 836 yards, 6 TDs, and 3 interceptions. And Hoover, I got to be honest, Hoover's been impressive to me. That North Carolina game was unbelievable watching him throw that. He's only played 2 games so far. He's 48 for 63, 621 yards, 6 TDs, and 1 interception. Travis, we'll talk to you first. Kevin Jennings is a real leader. He's really stepped up for this team.
Yeah, he's a very good leader this year. They obviously they've liked him a lot since he got in there. One of the things that they've talked about with him when he first got there was that he was this really quiet guy, and he's kind of always been that way with the media, but he's a lot more outspoken these days, a lot more comfortable talking to everybody, and just looks more like a captain on the field than he has in the past. I think you probably would like to see some of the decisions he's making to be a little bit better this year, especially with the 3 interceptions in the 3 games, and the accuracy and everything's fine. It's just there's a little bit of a missing component. I'm not sure what it is between what you want to see him be and what he is right now.
Yeah, and you've seen it before too. Leading a team last year to the college football playoffs, he had some good play last year. That was fun to see. What didn't start the season as the starter either. He kind of did what Hoover did, came in and ended up starting a lot of the season and taking over. But Jamie, tell us about Hoover. What kind of a kid is he? You're around the team. You talk to this kid. I mean, look, I'm telling you right now, at the beginning of the year, there's all kinds of Heisman talk about different guys. Right now that it's changed a lot. They've got some guys at the top, but this kid right here has been impressive to me.
Yeah, he's a really kind of a no-nonsense kid. And I say that insofar as there are a lot of other quarterbacks across the country who got a ton of media attention this offseason, and a lot of them deserved that attention. And
sure,
they were willing to do all of the media things and go out and shoot the photos and do everything else. And Josh Hoover's really just kind of a down-to-earth football guy. Like, that's really just who he is. And so you see all these other guys getting attention in the offseason, and Josh Hoover's really just working. He missed spring ball 2 years ago, so he got to take advantage of being healthy for spring this year. He got to take advantage of the new OTAs and have a full fall camp to break in some new wide receivers that weren't on the roster in 24. And he's worked on his game. And we've seen that through the first 2 starts that he's made this season. He's made incredible strides in his decision-making and in his mobility. And that's a testament to his offseason work ethic. And, when you've got a kid that's going to just put his head down and work hard to improve every day, it's the kind of guy you want leading your football team. And I think Josh Hoover's checking all those boxes right now.
Yeah, and what I was impressed with Hoover, especially in that North Carolina game, be honest, I only saw some highlights of the ACU game because I didn't get a chance. There's 12 games I got to try to watch at some point, or at least 10 or whatever, but for the teams I'm covering. So some of it's just highlights. I always watch the ones that are good, that I know that are going to be good games. But that North Carolina game, which I was looking forward because Bill Belichick, the whole story there, boy, he just seemed poised the whole game. He just seemed like nothing rattled him. He went out there. He made good throws. He made good decisions in the pocket. He moved around. I mean, just a leader on the field. Wasn't screaming, yelling, doing anything. He's just out there playing, like you said, no nonsense. And I remember after that game just going, holy crap, I did not watch this kid last year. He's good.
He really is. And I think those are 2 of the areas where he's really stepped up his game last year, especially early in the season. We saw him taking a little bit too many risks, throwing some interceptions, kind of putting his team behind the 8 ball a little bit with some of those decisions. And he wasn't quite as mobile. I think people forget in the spring of 24, he had back surgery. And so he was working his way back from that, still recovering during fall camp, still recovering during the first part of last season. And so his mobility wasn't quite there. He was taking maybe 1 or 2 many sacks a game, making some bad decisions with the football. This year has been really clean to start the year. And I would attribute that to his development, his understanding that making the right play is better than making the big play. And then he feels good. He's healthy, so he can move around a little bit more, extend plays, get creative. And TCU is benefiting from both of those things this year.
Okay, well, I want to get into what to watch for on this. So if we go on the offense, we're going to go each side of you guys on offense and defense. Now, these are just players to watch in this game, and then we're going to go in keys to victory for each team on offense and defense. We'll do that in just a second. Tyler, let's go to you first. On offense, who do we need to look for in this game? Who are some names we need to watch for?
Yeah, I think you think about SMU. You obviously think about the passing game with Romello Brinson has 200-yard receiving games this year. Missouri State was actually the first one where he didn't go over 100 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns this year. Very speedy and long guy. I think was the A&M or East Texas A&M game. He did a backflip or a front flip into the end zone on the first play, the first ball that he caught.
Yeah,
didn't really sit well with the coaching staff on that one, and he's gotten a couple penalties on that. But he's a big play guy out there. Then you also have Jalen Cooper, who's their number 2 receiver right now, which surprised a lot of people because he's a true freshman. But former TCU wide receiver Jordan Hudson got hurt in their first game, so now they have Cooper in there as their number 2 receiver. Another very fast and long guy. So type of receivers that they want to put out there. They moved RJ Maryland, the tight end, to wide receiver this year as well. So that's a big body out there and a guy that can catch a lot of balls out there. And then their top running back so far this year is TJ Harden, transfer from UCLA.
He had a big game against Baylor.
Yes, he did. He went for 115 and 3 touchdowns against Baylor. He's where the rest of the running back room is kind of these speedy guys that'll get you into a track meet. He's one of the bigger ground and pound kind of running backs, but he's kind of taken over that lead running back in that room, and he's just taken over the spot in the offense.
All right, let's go to you, Jamie. What about on offense? Who are some players we need to watch for TCU?
Well, we've already talked about Josh Hoover, but some of his wide receivers that have stepped up early this season are guys to keep an eye on. The main one being Jordan Dwyer. He's an Idaho transfer who I'm actually representing right now with the Fighting Taters shirt. But he's a transfer from Idaho. He had 1,000 yards receiving last year. This was actually the Abilene Christian game was his first game in 6, I believe, football games where he didn't go over 100 yards receiving. He lit it up against North Carolina. He's been a great wide receiver 1 for the Frogs. And it's really good for TCU because he wasn't supposed to be wide receiver 1. That's supposed to be Eric McAllister, but he's been a little up and down with his play over the first 2 weeks of the year. McAllister has. They really shaded a safety over hard on him against North Carolina, doubled him a ton in that game. He dropped 2 touchdown passes, frankly, against Abilene Christian, or that could have been a 60-point game for TCU. So McAllister's still working on getting up and running, but they've got Jordan Dwyer. They've got Joseph Manjack, who had a 100-yard day against ACU. They've got Ed Small, the true freshman, who had 2 receiving touchdowns against ACU as well. There are a ton of weapons on the outside. And then at running back, if Kavorian Barnes is healthy, he got a little banged up. He's probably going to be the lead back for TCU. But if not, I'd be really interested to see who of the kind of quad of running backs behind him, that's Jeremy Payne, John Denman, Trent Battle, and Nate Palmer, which one of those guys steps up into a larger role. And frankly, I wouldn't be terribly shocked if it was the true freshman, John Denman, who runs like he hates the ground. And so I really like his style of running. He reminds me a lot of Kavorian Barnes in that way, maybe a little bit more athletic. So those are some guys to watch on TCU's offense.
Okay, let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Travis, who on defense do we need to watch on this Mustang squad?
Yeah, well, I mean, Jamie pointed out that passing attack for TCU, the guys that are going to be in charge of stopping it are mainly going to be Isaiah Wacobia and Ahmad Moses on the back end. Moses is a safety, had a 95-yard pick 6 in the season opener. Wacobia is a guy that everybody in the SMU program loves as a cornerback, whereas that number 23, which for people who don't know is kind of like the LSU number 7 for defense at SMU. You got to earn the number in every year, no matter who wore it the year before. So he's earned that back. I think it's his 3rd straight year wearing it, maybe even longer. So that's a testament to the type of player that he is. Then you got on the defensive line, because you're going to have to be getting to the passer. Cam Robertson is a UNT transfer. He's probably their best pass rusher as a defensive end. And then you've got Umba as a defensive tackle for transferred in, probably their best pass rusher from the interior so far. believe he has 2.5 sacks this season so far. And then you have Alex Kilgore possibly coming back. He's a junior linebacker, was into the starting lineup as a freshman a couple of years ago, got hurt in the season opener this year. They weren't sure how much he was going to play. Since then, it sounds like he's going to be probably good to go for this game, so that'll help them with the middle of their defense.
Well, if you're going to get them back, this is the game to get them back for. This is the big one here. What about Jamie? Let's talk about the defense of TCU.
I mean, I think everything kind of begins and ends with Bud Clark. He feels like he's been around for a decade at this point at TCU. He had that, infamous pick six to start things off against Michigan in the Fiesta Bowl, and he's been rolling ever since. He's the only safety returning to college football this year that had a 90-plus grade from PFF for his 2024 season, and he's already got a pair of interceptions this year, including a pick six in that season opener against North Carolina. So he's a guy on the back end to keep an eye on. You've got cornerbacks that have returned from injury, like Vernon Glover, who missed all of last year with the torn ACL. He's come back, and he's really been corner number one for the Frogs for the first month of the season. You've got a bunch of defensive talent, veteran talent up in that front of the defense as well, with guys like Marcus Steele and Ansel Dinba. And then you've got Paul Oyewale as a pass rusher who also missed all of last year. He's back. He's healthy. He's built like a Greek god. He looks like a freak. And then you've got Marcus Steele's brother, Devin Deal, who led TCU in sacks last year. So they've got a ton of veteran talent on this side of the ball. And that's not even mentioning the linebackers, Namdi Obiizor and Caleb Elarms-Orr, who are both off to great starts as well. So it's a veteran-laden group. They've come a long way in year two under Andy Avalos as their defensive coordinator. And I think they feel, coming off this ACU game where they gave up 21, that like they've got to get back on track. They feel like they've got something to prove. It was a really intense practice today on Tuesday, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that continues through the rest of the week.
I've been meaning to ask you on this because when I was putting together stuff at the beginning of the year, I noticed that there are two Deals, the Deal brothers. Are they twins or are they apart by an age? How are they?
Devin's the older brother. So Devin Deal is like a defensive end linebacker hybrid position in this Avalos defense. It's called the stud position. He's a transfer from Tulane. So he was on the Tulane team that beat USC in the Cotton Bowl 2 years ago. And then after that, when Willie Fritz left Tulane to go to Houston, he hit the portal, looked at Houston, ended up deciding to transfer to TCU, where his brother Marcus was a freshman. And so Marcus is the younger brother. They actually have another younger brother who's still at Naaman Forest over in Garland. He's a 6'3", 180 athlete as well. There are a lot of schools looking at that kid too after they've seen the Deals at TCU light it up for the last year and a half. So pretty good bloodline for the Deal family. They're great, got great parents as well. They're both on that defensive line for the Horned Frogs this year.
And Naaman Forest is like a 3-minute drive from I'm in Richardson, but I'm right on the Richardson Garland line right there, and I can drive right over there. In fact, it's where I go if I have to get to Walmart or something like that over there. The Naaman Forest is right back there behind it, so I know exactly where that's at. Okay, let's go to the keys to the game, and we're going to go to keys to victory on offense and defense. I'll start with you, Travis. If SMU ends up pulling the up, which is now going to be an upset.
Yeah.
Tell me what the keys to that offense are. What happened during this game if SMU ends up winning this thing?
Yeah, I would say if they end up winning the game, I would say what happened would be they limited the penalties and the turnovers because those have been shooting them in the foot, especially in that Missouri State game. They converted their possessions into touchdowns and not field goals because that's what you're going to need to do against this TCU offense. And SMU's been struggling in the kicking game as it is so far this season. So that's just behooves them to score touchdowns and get the offense going. And then also their offensive line will have had to play probably its best game of the season. They look a little, it's not that they're not good. It's just that they look a little overmatched at times. Sometimes watching them, they don't quite look like an ACC offensive line. And that's something that's going to be very important for them to get that kind of push and get that momentum going for that offense to run.
Yeah. Okay, Jamie, what about you? What's happened if TCU does what they're supposed to do, if they've won this game? What if Hoover and the guys on offense, what is the keys to victory? What have they done?
I think you've seen it through the first 2 weeks of the season for TCU, where when the first team offense is on the field, they've had 15 drives through 2 games. They've scored on 12 of them, and 10 of those have been touchdowns. And so, if they continue to be as efficient as they have been on offense, that's Hoover getting the ball out on time, making the right decision, a much improved run game from a season ago, regardless of who the running back is. I think they're going to be fine scoring points. It's just a matter of when we get to it, can the defense do what the defense needs to do to make those points worthwhile?
That's great, because you're going to be telling me that in just a second. We'll go to you, Travis, since they're the underdog. If SMU does win this game, what have they done on defense?
Yeah, this is the part that gets more difficult, because that defense has given up some plays this year. I would say number one is probably the communication on the back end of the defense in the secondary. Like I said, they've given up some plays back there. Usually there's a miscommunication or somebody missing their assignment or out of place or something when that happens. So that's probably the easiest way to fix that. They also need to get pass rush on Josh Hoover, because that is one of the quarterbacks that they should be afraid of giving up a lot of stats and a lot of yards, a lot of points to, because he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, in my opinion. And then they need to find a way to get off the field. Can't have those extended drives, maybe force some turnovers. It goes, like I was saying, the other direction. They got to limit the turnovers on offense. It would help them to get some extra possessions to try to build up some points against TCU.
I totally, boy, I couldn't agree more with that. Time of possession would be huge. If SMU wins the game, I think it would be that they have kept TCU off the field and kept TCU from sustaining a drive. What about you, Jamie, on defense? If TCU does what they're supposed to and they win, what have they done on defense?
I think they've contained Kevin Jennings to the point where he's not allowed to get out of the pocket and be creative in scramble mode. Last year, I think we saw a lot of, first of all, the SMU run game really taking advantage of a bad TCU run defense, and then Jennings being able to create outside the pocket, which hurt TCU's secondary. If the improved defensive line can create pressure on Jennings and contain him, make him be a pocket passer. That's not to say that he's a bad passing quarterback, because he's not. But if you take away that second dimension of Jennings' game, I think he's much more manageable when you're trying to defend him. And so if TCU can be strong in that front seven, contain him, keep him in the pocket, I think he's shown this year that he's willing to take some risks with throwing the football. And we know that TCU's got an incredibly veteran secondary that can take advantage of some of those throws. I think Jennings has 7 turnover-worthy plays so far this season in just 3 games. So if they can get him into a couple more of those situations, I think TCU comes away with the win.
Okay. All right. So here's the thing we're going to do now. Now I'm about to show what my prediction is. And I've got to preface this for those that watch the weekly countdown show and all of that. I did a preseason roster on everyone. I mean, a full schedule. I showed everyone's schedule in SMU and TCU both, and the other Texas, the 13 Texas FBS schools. I predicted whatever all their records would be. In that prediction, I had SMU winning this game. I had SMU having a better season than TCU. I did reserve the right, after I put out that initial show for each one, and after I put out all of those, I did reserve the right and told everyone I have the ability and the right to change my mind as the season goes on. A lot of things can factor into that. There could be injuries. There could be just teams don't play like you thought they were going to be. They're obviously not as good as what you thought. This is one of my games where I've made, last week for the first week, I made a change. And last week I did pick A&M. I thought A&M was going to lose to Notre Dame. And I picked A&M to beat Notre Dame, and I was right. I've changed my mind this week. I have picked TCU to win this game. I did have SMU winning this game. Here's where I came away. I came away 35-28. Now, according to both of y'all, I might be a little off as far as low. I might be a little low on the totem pole there. You both seem to think it might be a little high when we were talking earlier. Where am I wrong, guys, or where do you see this thing falling?
Go for it, Tyler.
I don't think you're wrong. I mean, that's a high scoring game. I think I have a hard time not seeing both these teams in the 40s, honestly. Okay. There's just a lot of them, a lot of offense on both sides. I don't see the defenses getting a lot of stops. It's just going to go back and forth from what I think.
Yeah. If SMU had a fully healthy offensive line, I think I'd agree. They're a little banged up, and according to Lashley, I think a lot of those guys are going to try and go on Saturday. But I don't like the prospects, if I'm an SMU fan, of a banged up offensive line trying to go against this TCU defensive front this year specifically. Right. I think the offense for TCU is going to be able to take advantage of that secondary. And I think the defense that's improved is going to be able to do some of those things that I talked about making SMU a little bit more one-dimensional. So I think the Frogs win. I think the Frogs cover, and I'm going to go with 42-31.
42-31. What are you saying, Travis?
I had 44-41 TCU.
44-41. So we're all falling on TCU this week. Listen, it's not to say I don't think SMU is a good team. Like Jamie was saying, the offensive line is banged up, like Travis was saying too. In talking that, I tell you what really put a big alert up on me. I thought SMU had a chance to get to 10-2 this year and maybe slide back into that ACC title game. We'll see. I think a lot of eyes were opened up by Florida State that is that jumping up in that thing. And I think they put a lot of people on notice in that ACC. In the same respect, now you kind of got Clemson that's had a few struggles themselves. So we don't know. SMU will have to get it turned on though for sure. Yeah,
I think that SMU hasn't played as well as you thought they were going to earlier this year. That's what has me. I was like you before this game came along. I thought I was going to pick them no matter what, and then after these past few weeks, it's all changed and everything. And they showed some stat on the game last week where Jennings struggles a lot more on the road than he does at home. So that's another thing that plays into it for me. It's just I can't see them coming out with it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what. So I've said all along when I'm doing my rankings from 13 down to 1, and Texas has started out for 3 straight weeks at number 1. They slid. And one of my things, my criteria would get to, I said, look, when I look at 2 teams playing each other, I say if you go to a neutral field and you were to play 10 games, who would win 6? Who would get to 6 first? And that's all you'd have to get to is 6, and that's the winner. I put A&M over Texas because I'm sorry. Right now, I don't see how Texas can score on anybody right now, and A&M is playing unbelievable. I tell you what, now not SMU, I'll be honest there, but with TCU, Baylor, and Tech right now and the way they're playing, if Texas doesn't show that their offense can come to life and start, they are a little banged up too. They haven't had one of their good starting running backs yet. Wisner hasn't played and Baxter gets hurt the first game. I don't care what I'm seeing from Arch. I'm not seeing it. My whole thing's flipping, and it sucks for me as a Texas fan, but I'm sorry. I'm just realist. I got to be honest about it. I can't sit here and just be a homer. I want Texas to go 11-1. Let's be really honest. But this is the way this works. Like you said, you thought SMU. I thought SMU would win this. I just assumed they would. Changed my mind on that one, but I think we've all come away good. I think it's you guys think it's going to be a lot more high scoring to me, and you're probably right. You watch these defenses closely, and they have given up some points a little bit. So, and Kevin Jennings can make things happen. The deal is are they going to be able to stop Hoover in that offense?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing for me.
Jamie, Travis, listen, I appreciate it. Guys, anything before we get out of here and get you guys back to your normal gigs?
Nothing from me. Go Frogs.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, I can't thank you enough. Thanks for jumping on here with me. This is a lot of fun. Probably, without a doubt, we're going to have some more TCU and SMU games to get back on here and do. Guys, big game this weekend. Watch TCU SMU. It should be a great one. I'm going to be watching it from walking around Austin, Texas. I'm going to be watching it on my phone or something for sure. I appreciate it. For Travis Tyler, Jamie Plunkett, I'm John Moore. Until next time or the next show, guys, we'll see you at the Gridiron.